Hey guys, and welcome to the Invar Technologies Podcast, a podcast where we interview top-level executives inside leading and growing companies in the food and beverage space. We're excited to have our guest today, Matt Ross. We'll be diving into a story, a little bit about what his company Killer Brownie does, and some engaging insights into the industry, so make sure to stick around. This is going to be an action-packed one, and I know that Matt's going to bring a lot of value to this. So I'll go ahead and just kick it off to you, Matt. If you could just, introduce yourself, tell a quick snippet of your story and your background, prior to working at the Killer Brownie.
Sure. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Killer Brownie company. Prior to coming to the Killer Brownie company, my background was in software development. So I was a project manager for software development, first for a small company and then for a much larger company. So I've worked on all sorts of different projects and had the opportunity and the good fortune to work with a lot of smart people, including some who got patents on some of the training projects that we were working on. Then I started my own software business. I had that for 10 years. I had a company that we worked with educational institutions, mostly K through 12 schools, automating their paperwork. And I sold that after 10 years and exited that industry.
That's awesome. So what was it about, you're a software developer by trade. What was it about kind of taking the transition and almost, to a COO role? Like, why was it that, you wanted to, were you always like an operation guy? You loved the operation side of things, and you kind of wanted to leave the, technology and the software development side? What was that like?
Yeah. So I could write code if I had to, but I'd much prefer not to. My skill set is I find really smart people to help me. So, I always enjoyed the underlying business processes because if you don't have good business processes, software implementation is going to be a train wreck. So I really enjoyed that, concentrated on those. So, whether it's making brownies or making software, if you have good people and good processes, that's a huge help.
I love that, whether it's making brownies or making software. So you went from the software world, right? And then you made a transition into the food world. What was it about, kind of the getting inside the food industry that you wanted to do? Or, were you always thinking about making the transition, or it kind of just fell in your lap and you're like, you know what, here I am. And you kind of just embraced it. What was that like?
Yeah, kind of a combination of the two, really. My wife's family has a grocery store chain here in Dayton, Ohio, Dorothy Lane Market, world renowned, literally. People come from all over the world. We have some visitors from Northern California today, had some from Japan a couple months ago that are visiting our facility because of Dorothy Lane. So they started the Killer Brownie company as a wholesale company about 24 years ago. And I'd always kind of was intrigued by that. My wife joined 10 years ago. I joined 7 years ago as the production manager. So, kind of a combination of something I had thought about and knowing the right people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know that you told me a little bit about, kind of how you started. What was it? When there were like only 7 employees, you guys were super small when you first came in, and you've grown the business with them, right? So you've been along for the journey as well, which is very cool.
It's been, they really started growing the business prior to my arrival, but when I got here there were 8 of us. We have about 140 now.
Wow.
Revenue, we've grown revenue 11 times from when I started. So it's been an exciting ride the last, it'll be 7 years on May 1st that I've been with Killer.
Wow. So you've obviously been in the industry for a little bit. You've seen probably some trends kind of come and go, and the ebbs and flow of the market. I'm curious, like what are some trends that you're seeing right now within the food industry that maybe you're aware of?
Yes, I think across the board, maybe not just in the food industry, we're continuing to see costs rise, in some cases pretty dramatically. Within the baking industry, cocoa is a huge concern right now. Cocoa is in a near crisis globally. Really concerned what's going to happen with that this year. Something that our procurement team is really focusing on and trying to stay up to date on, staying ahead of. But that's something that we really have to keep our eye on. I think across manufacturing, efficiency and automation is something that has really come to the forefront. I think especially during the pandemic that started happening. We tend to, I think automation gets a bad name sometimes, so we tend to look at it maybe a little differently. We're not trying to replace people. We're trying to automate while maintaining our culture, and we've done a really good job of that. Another trend, it seems that labor is getting a little better. We've had some really good success lately finding good people.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think you bring up some valid points that I've obviously already talked to some people that have mentioned something similar around those costs, right? Whatever it may be. I definitely think food cost is one of them, right? It's right out there, right? The inflation has been crazy when it comes to food costs, kind of forcing companies to become a little bit more creative with how they're able to offset that, right? Cost, and maybe not yank up the price so much to the consumer on the back end, and maybe find other ways to optimize, costs to be able to give the same price, right?
It's a tough balance in trying to find ways. In some cases, you have to pass the cost through.
Yeah.
We've done some creative things not to do that. Always looking for ways, of course, to be efficient and cut costs out, but it's a tricky balance for sure.
Definitely. And I mean, you're talking to someone that has family in the restaurant business, and so I've seen it firsthand in terms of, you try to remain as competitive as possible, but when, I think it was over COVID, during the COVID era, when chicken doubles in price, right? Like when it just doubles in price, like how can you keep your prices the same, right? It's just almost nearly impossible, right? So you have to, you unfortunately, you have to put it back on the consumer. But like you said, you always try to find it.
Yeah, sorry. They probably struggled with egg prices like we did last year, and sugar last year. So yeah, it's been a lot of challenges for the food industry for sure.
Yeah. I did want to go back now. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Killer Brownie. I wanted you to educate the audience. I mean, it's kind of in the name, right? The Killer Brownie. I'm assuming I know what you guys offer in terms of the products, but if you can go a little bit and kind of just tell maybe some of the different products that you guys offer, at the Killer Brownie for maybe the audience who doesn't know.
Sure. So yeah, I guess the name in some ways kind of gives it away, but they're not typical brownies. We have 3 different tiers of brownies. The namesake, the Killer Brownie, was developed in the late 70s, early 80s at Dorothy Lane Market. So that's the signature one. It has at least 3 layers, including a middle caramel layer. We also have artisan brownies, the second tier. So there are a lot of innovative brownies there. They don't have caramel in them. They're single or double layer. We also have traditional brownies, so it's a fudge brownie, always with premium ingredients.
Got it. Yeah, you're making me hungry right now, Matt. Well, if you had to maybe pinpoint, 1 or 2 areas, I know you talked about it a little bit, but what would you say, really makes, the Killer Brownie maybe stand out in terms of, your product that maybe you offer, the unique value that you see, obviously being part of the company?
Yeah, so there's some things that stand out to me when I think about that question. First of all, we use clean ingredients when possible. There's some challenges, for example, sprinkles that can be challenging to find clean, but all our ingredients are clean ingredients. They're sustainably sourced. Cocoa and palm oils are all sustainably sourced. We also really pride ourselves on innovation. We have a lot of innovative, unique products, but we keep them scalable from a merchandising perspective and to allow for repeat purchases. We think about packaging a lot. And then something that's really unique to Killer Brownie, as I believe related to our products, is our culture. So we've strategically decided to build just a phenomenal culture. I was in the break room 10 minutes before we started, and there's just so much energy. People laughing and joking with each other, just having a great time. I gave a tour the other day, and I took a product off the line, and somebody from the line grabbed me and stopped me and said, hey, you can't give that out because the packaging isn't quite right. They're going to get a bad impression of us. So when you have a great culture and people buy into it, it's a lot of work to develop that, but it just impacts the products in such a positive way.
Definitely. I think that is one of the most important parts of a business, right? And I think people often forget that even, across all businesses, what a business really is, it's a reflection of people, right? And
absolutely,
the people that are in the business, you can have a product all you want, but, the people that buy into the vision, that push the business forward, that believe in it, that's what's going to separate the business from other businesses. Because, as you know, I'm sure you've been in the business world, you sold the company. 90% of businesses fail, right? That's the statistic. After 1 year, after 5 years, I think it's even higher. But most businesses fail, and I think part of it, there's different reasons, but I think a huge part of it also comes down to that culture element, that vision element, right? And having people buy into that. I know you've even mentioned to me off camera how much you've enjoyed working at the Killer Brownie, being part of that. And that's what people want at the end of the day, is to be a part of something that's bigger than them, and be able to come to work and enjoy it, right?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, including me, have worked in places that have a purpose, vision, mission, core values, but they're not really managed to those things. They're just managed kind of by cold numbers. We've made a strategic decision not to do that here. Obviously, numbers are important, but our purpose, our mission, our vision, our core values, we talk about them every day. We hire. They're part of the hiring process. They're part of the coaching process. We really work hard to live them. We're not perfect, obviously, but there's a significant amount of effort put into really living by those.
That's awesome. Matt, over here, we're a technology company at Invar Technologies, so we're always curious, what type of, challenges are happening within the industry in terms of technology. And, you obviously come from kind of a tech background, a software development background. So I'm curious to ask you this, what are the biggest challenges that you really see in relationship to technology within the food industry?
I don't know that I would be able to give a really good answer on the broader food industry. I can talk about our experience here at Killer Brownie. Yeah. There's a lot of unique processes. The way ingredients are consumed in the manufacturing process brought unique challenges as we're implementing our ERP, which we've been working on for about a year and a half. It's going well. A lot of things that we can improve on still, though. For Killer Brownie, we've grown so quickly that keeping up the business processes up to date has been a challenge. There's been historically there was a lot of handwritten things, a lot of papers. We are SQF certified and we're FDA regulated, so there's a lot of paperwork that we do. So historically, there's been a lot of handwritten things, so transitioning to those. But as we've grown so fast, getting rid of the paper has been a challenge. And like we talked about earlier, technology implementation is a disaster if there's not good business processes that it's built on. So we've really focused on those, documenting good processes before implementing technology. Again, like a lot of companies, we've made mistakes there too, and thought, we got to get this implemented right away, and we got it backwards. But yeah, there's challenges that we've faced for sure when it comes to technology.
Definitely, yeah, and I think you bring up some common ones that we've heard from different companies within the industry as well. I mean, obviously you're the COO, so you got your hands on a lot of things in the business. You're driving the business forward. You probably are wearing a lot of hats. You're doing a lot of things. I'm curious, maybe in your experience, what type of roadblocks come up in operating, and being the COO, and really operating a business from within the industry. And then the follow up to that is going to be, what have you found really useful in kind of overcoming some of those common pitfalls that you've maybe succumbed to in the past?
Yeah, so I think I had the good fortune of working on a really solid foundation from people that were doing this before me. The biggest challenge, I think, for a lot of food companies is maintaining margins. we're really proud that we have, during that crazy growth, we've always been profitable, uh, doing very well financially. So that's something that we're proud of. Again, getting kind of back to that, finding a balance of costs and looking for ways to be more efficient, um, all while maintaining the culture, because again, that's a strategic decision that we've made. I think from a COO perspective, letting things go. So I started as the production manager. So when there were 8 of us, I was out on the floor mixing and depositing and baking. And then as we grew and started adding people, personally, I think one of the biggest challenges is letting some of those things go. And I've been really fortunate to find some really good people to be able to pass those things on to, that I completely trust, but it's not always easy letting things go.
100%, 100%. I mean, I'm sure you have the mentality, right? And similar to myself, it's like, oh, I do it. I mean, like, I know I can do it well, and it's hard to let that standard that you have, you're trying to pass it over, and you have to almost be okay with, well, not in most cases, but in some cases, it's like, even if they do the job 80-90% as good as you, it's still worth you having that off your plate so you can focus on other higher leverage activities that can really drive the business forward, instead of just, doing more of those low leverage tasks that, you could be doing better than someone. But if you can put someone that does, I think I heard from someone, 70-80% of the job that you can do, it's worth getting that off your plate so that you can focus on other
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, I think delegation is such an important skill as you're growing a company. I ask all the time, I have it written down, is it scalable? And I ask that of myself and of our team all the time. Is our organizational structure, are our cleaning processes, are our baking processes, are our business processes, are they scalable? And if you want to be the hero and you want to do everything, that is just not scalable. So you have to delegate, and you have to be intentional about it, and again, finding good people.
Definitely. What type, I always like to ask this question because I'm a big into, mindset, and kind of the way that you think often dictates your actions, right? And the way that you present yourself, the way that you hold yourself, in your opinion, because obviously it is an opinion based question. I've asked it to like 20-30 people, and they all have given me different answers. But what type of mindset, in your opinion, is needed to be a successful COO?
So here's some things that have worked for me. I think you have to be forward thinking. You have to be looking out into the future, because my job is to make sure that the team here has what they need from a facility perspective, from the tools, from the processes, people, skill sets, training. So you have to be looking forward. If you're not, it's too late. And things are going to go wrong. And it's been really important for me to stay calm in the chaos, because if I'm panicking, if I'm freaking out, everyone's going to freak out. But so it's been really important for me. I've been just working on staying calm in the moment, and that keeps everyone calm, and we get through it. We can think in the moment. If we stay calm, we accomplish a lot more. And then the big one that we talked about a little bit before is empowering others, being willing to delegate things intentionally and smartly, and empowering them to move forward and make decisions.
Definitely. I think you touched on a lot of great points. I think, you're only as good as your team, right? Like, a company is only as good as the people around them. And to your point, giving people the room to excel, and that's the proper leadership, right? Is making people become better under you, right? People that are working for you, is you're trying to inspire them to be better, and hold them to a higher standard. Also, be able to bring them up, right? That's such an important quality across all the leaders in a business, that I think is a lot of times why people either hate working for somebody, or they love working for that person because they've just made them grow so much in that role.
Absolutely. I think my favorite role I've ever had in my life is being a father. It's the hardest job I've ever had, and the most rewarding job I've ever had. So I say this with a lot of respect. managing people well is like parenting. You have to really care about them. You have to want them to be better than you are, grow past where you've gotten, and you have to give them honest feedback and coaching.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think I've yet to have any kids, but I can definitely see that that correlation because, you know, great fathers are usually great leaders, right? Like that's typically how it is, right? And you see the correlation to that. And so it's definitely being able to your point, parent and be there for your employees and for the people working for you and lifting them up. I think is such first of all just an important quality of a human being, but also an important quality of a leader, right? Someone that's going to take the business forward and drive it forward because you can run a business different ways, right? Like I've realized that you could be a dictator, like you could be a dictator and you can get things done that way, right? Like you can be the dictator who's just on everybody, making stuff happen, and pushing the business forward that way. You can make stuff happen, but I think people aren't going to enjoy working for you. Rather than you could be that the leader you're talking where you're empowering people, still driving the business forward, still getting things done, but doing it in a different manner, right? And so I think I always have that delineation between the types of leaders that there are in business, because there's a lot of businesses that are those or leaders that are the dictators, right? Just boom, this has got to be like this. We got to make it happen. Boom, boom, boom. And while it can work, I don't think that I'd ever want it. I don't want to ever be someone like that, if that makes sense. And
I completely agree that we've made a decision to be different at Killer Brownie, but there's a lot of businesses that are successful doing other things. But that's what we've chosen to do here.
Yeah. So the next, I don't like to go too far out, right? 5 to 10 years is super hard for me to see that far. But the next 12 months, what does that look like for the Killer Brownie? What are you guys building towards, or what are you doing?
So we're really focusing on operational excellence. With the rapid growth we've had, I say repeatedly that I would put our Killer Brownie team up against any team in the world of getting stuff done. It's unbelievable what they've accomplished, and just dragging this thing up the hill. But with that comes a lot of inefficiencies. So a group of us are really concentrating on how to run the business even more efficiently. We're looking at 20% growth this year, so we need to continue to get better. And profitability, again, something we're very proud of, is during this crazy growth, we've maintained a very healthy organization financially, and we're going to continue to do that. So those are some things that we're looking forward to in 24.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited for you. I definitely have to try some Killer Brownie because, it's only right, especially now.
Hey, send me your address. We'll get you some. I should have done that before this.
I know.
If I was in marketing and sales, I would have.
Yeah. No problem. But next time we have to maybe do a round 2 of this, and then I'll try it on the podcast. But hey, man, it's been awesome getting the chance to hear your story, kind of how you got into the industry, also what you guys are doing at the Killer Brownie. It really does sound like something special, and I love to hear the passion and the fire that you have for the business, and also what you're building. I think that's one of my favorite things to hear, is when people really believe in something. Like you hear it in their voice, you hear it in their conviction, you hear when they talk about it, the way that they they carry themselves. And so for me, I can definitely say that I can see that conviction. I can see how much you love the company, and I have no doubt in my mind that you guys are going to continue to grow as long as you hold that same mindset and the same approach that you have. So kudos to you. I definitely love to end with kind of a loaded question, to kind of just we've already been sprinkling some nuggets of wisdom throughout the podcast, but what are some of the most important things that you've learned? You've obviously done a couple of things, Matt. You've started your own business, you sold your own business, now you're in this new company, you're growing this new company. If you really had to summarize some maybe the important things that you've learned, what would you say that those are?
A great piece of advice I got from my father-in-law when I was starting my own business. He said, don't let the highs be too high and the lows be too low. And wow, that's a great piece of advice. It's very difficult, but yeah. I've learned that not to overreact. don't get carried away in the good times. Be disciplined. Don't let the lows bring you down. Keep fighting. Even with people in the moment, people might react poorly because of the pressure. So don't overreact to their reaction. Just take time to think and remain calm. Another thing is we really that we talked about that we've done here is finding great people. It's worked for me to hire for the cultural fit, not necessarily the skill. There's skills that we need, but I wholeheartedly believe that if you find the right person with the right attitude that fits your culture, fits what you're trying to build, you can teach skills. There's a lot of way to teach skills. It's very difficult to teach attitude.
Definitely. I would agree. I think that's 100%. Something that I always take with me is, skills can be learned, but the most important thing, like you said, like it's that mindset, is the way that they think, their attitude towards the business. Because if they have a good attitude and they have a good mindset, chances are once they learn the skill, they're going to be an 18 player, and that's what you're looking for, right? It's like, how can I find those 18 players? And sometimes, you'll even have people with skills, but with the lack of the mindset, and it doesn't mesh. They may have done things, but it doesn't mesh well with the culture and the fit. So I love that you bring that up.
I realize that's not breaking news here. A lot of people have done it, but I would underscore everyone who has said that before me that is critical.
And I love what you also talked about at the last point, is the not taking the highs, not being it's almost like a stoicism. I don't know if you've read into it, but it sounds like principles of stoicism that I've often touched on. And it's true, right? Like not getting too lows with the lows, not getting too highs with the highs, understanding that it's a part of life, everything that you go through. And it helps you stay a lot more grounded and a lot more calm under those situations, and understanding that there will be lows and there will be highs. Like it's just the way of life. It's the ebbs and the flows. Everything that goes up must come down. Everything that comes down must go up, right? So having that attitude and outlook, I think, is definitely very powerful in the long term, viewing a business long term and being a part of that.
Easy to talk about, really hard to do.
Exactly. In theory, it sounds great, right? Matt, if people are listening to this and they either want to reach out to yourself or they maybe want to try out some of the products, what are the best ways to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, I go to killerbrownie.com. You can find a lot of information about our products there, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that's how we first got connected. I try to stay active on there. It's been a great resource for our business and me personally.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to include both of those in the description. Thanks again, Matt, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you guys did watch this all the way to the end, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more content. We hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Matt. Take care.
My pleasure.